Jean Dominique Anthony Metzinger was born on June 25, 1883 in Nantes, a picturesque port city in the west of France, where both worlds, nature and man, intersected in their relaxed harmony. It was here, amid the sun's rays and the changing sky, that one was born who would later turn reality into fragments and formulas, weaving them into art canvases. Metzinger's childhood, like his future art, was full of contrasts. His family did not have deep artistic traditions, but gave young Jean a passion for knowledge and scientific discoveries. From an early age, he was characterized by a desire for accuracy and a deep understanding of things, which later played a decisive role in the formation of his artistic worldview. He saw the world not only through the prism of colors and shapes, but also through the structure that had to be solved, like a mathematical equation. Thank you to everyone who watches this video, and I ask you not to forget to subscribe to the channel, distribute the video and put likes. Your support is very important for me and the further development of the channel. Young Metzinger became interested in art early. He spent hours watching the ships sailing from the port of Nantes and tried to imagine a world beyond the horizon. This unknown, these spaces outside the usual, always attracted him. Even then, an internal search began to mature in it, the desire not only to depict reality, but to translate it into new, unknown forms. Metzinger was educated at a local art school, where his talent was quickly noticed. However, the school gave only technical skills, and young Jean wanted more. He sought to reveal deeper, hidden truths. He craved new experience, new knowledge, and soon this desire led him to the capital of art, Paris. At this time, the young artist was already firmly on his way, but was still looking for his creative direction. His first works bore obvious imprints of post-impressionism. Like Seurat or Signac, Metzinger felt a strong attraction to the technique of pointillism, where small dots of color gathered in harmonious paintings, creating the effect of light and depth. His early canvases were full of bright colors and struck with a clear structure, where each detail seemed to find its place in an elaborate mosaic. Metzinger admired the idea that color can not only convey emotions, but also form a deep sense of structure, reflect the inner harmony of the world. His work resembled visual equations, where color and shape were components that were supposed to combine to create something more than just an image. However, Paris, with its endless stream of new ideas, did not give the artist the opportunity to stay for a long time on one technique or style. Metzinger experimented relentlessly, exploring the limits of his artistic expression. He immersed himself in neo-impressionism, was interested in the works of Gauguin and Van Gogh, where bright color spots formed not only the image, but also the mood, narrative, emotion. From each of them, he took a share of inspiration, expanding his creative horizon. Once Jean met Georges Braque. This encounter was one of those life-changing accidents. Marriage, even then one of the leading experimenters in painting, shared Jean's desire to find new forms of expression. Their conversations about art turned into deep discussions about the nature of reality, about how you can decompose it into simple geometric elements and reassemble it into new forms. It was in these conversations that the understanding was born that the world could not be seen from only one angle. Together with Braque, and later with Pablo Picasso, Metzinger began to create a new visual approach, one that would be called cubism in the future. They did not just break the forms into pieces, they looked for the essence of objects, tried to see them from all possible sides at the same time. It was a real artistic coup, and Metzinger was at its very center. In the company of these artists, who questioned everything that until now was considered canon, Jean revealed himself as a real innovator. Retreating from impressionistic methods, he began to create canvases where simple geometric figures, cubes, pyramids, cylinders, became the basis of a new reality. Although critics at first did not understand this unusual technique, Metzinger remained committed to his ideas. He, like his comrades, believed that art should not only reflect the world, but also offer new ways of perceiving it. Jean Metzinger, Georges Braque and Pablo Picasso took an incredibly bold step towards what became known as cubism. In the workshops and coffee shops of Paris at the beginning of the 20th century, a new approach to art was born, which was to break the framework of classical painting and change the vision of reality. Metzinger and his contemporaries realized, if the world is full of layering, if each object and each person has not one side, but many, then why not try to depict them all at the same time? Georges Braque and Pablo Picasso, with whom Metzinger often communicated, were also fascinated by the idea of geometrization and the destruction of familiar forms. Their workshops became a kind of laboratories where a new language of painting was explored. Among the collections of paintings and unfinished sketches, in dialogues and discussions, the idea of fragmentation of the image was born, where each object or figure was divided into planes and angles, appearing simultaneously from different perspectives. Metzinger, having a deep interest in science and mathematics, brought his knowledge to this process, which helped him create his paintings not only intuitively, but also rationally. His early Cubist works, such as Bacchanti, 1912, became the manifesto of this new vision. The artist not only transmitted movement and form through the prism of geometry, but also proposed a new way of interpreting space and time. This picture depicts a woman in motion, but her figure seems to be divided into many geometric planes, transmitting several angles at the same time. The viewer sees not only the external form of the dancer, but also the artist's attempt to capture the movement itself, its internal dynamics. The picture demonstrates the ideas of a multifaceted vision of the world, where no object or phenomenon can be limited to a single angle. Metzinger considered reality as an object for analysis, where each part of it can be carefully decomposed into fragments and reassembled, but in a new, unexpected form. He wrote, "We try to see the world as it really is, not from one side, but from all at once." This desire for layering was key to understanding cubism, and Metzinger was one of the first to theorize these approaches. He did not just draw, he analyzed and described the process of creation. In 1912, together with Albert Gleizes, Metzinger wrote the book, On Cubism, which became one of the very first theoretical works devoted to this direction. In their book, they outlined the basic principles of cubism, arguing that the artist should not be limited to only one angle of view, as was the case in classical painting. The world around us is full of simultaneity, and each object has more dimensions than can be seen with the naked eye. Cubism is an attempt to comprehend the plurality of forms in the world, Metzinger wrote. This book not only formulated the basic principles of a new direction, but also became an impetus for other artists who also sought to experiment. It was the theoretical framework laid down by Metzinger and Gleizes that helped Cubism gain recognition as a serious artistic movement, and not just a series of avant-garde experiments. She laid the theoretical foundation on which new artistic interpretations of space, form, and reality grew. Thanks to works and paintings, Cubism has become not only an aesthetic revolution, but also a philosophical challenge to the established concept of how we see and understand the world around us. The evolution of Jean Metzinger's work from Neo-Impressionism to Cubism is a clear example of how the artist can go from reflecting reality to completely rethinking it. At the very beginning of his career, Metzinger was fascinated by impressionistic techniques, in particular pointillism, which allowed him to play with light and color, creating a sense of space and movement through small dots. His early work attests to his mastery of this technique and his desire to convey the world around him through precision and mathematical structure. However, over time, Metzinger increasingly felt that this style limited his possibilities for artistic expression. He sought a deeper understanding of reality, which would allow not only to convey the world around, but also to explore its inner essence. It was this desire that pushed him to Cubism, where the shapes of objects and people began to decompose into fragments, forming complex, geometrized compositions. Cubism is gaining popularity, and more often not only critics of periodicals of that time pay attention to it. For example, such paintings as Femme au Miroir, Man with a Pipe, Dancer in a Cafe, as well as Tea Time, Metzinger here continues to develop the idea of multilayered perception. The image seems to exist in several dimensions at the same time. Its image is bifurcated. Its movement and thoughts penetrate into different space-time points. Metzinger's cubism increasingly tends towards abstraction, and this is reflected in the general movement of avant-gardists, who depart from the image of reality in favor of pure form. His creative search, the combination of science and art, the desire for an intellectual approach to painting inspired many young artists. Together with Glaise and Braque, he laid the foundation for the development of cubism not only as an artistic direction, but also as a philosophical concept of perception of the world. Metzinger's art was not just a reflection of new ideas, it became a catalyst for changes in the art of the 20th century. The artist helped to rethink the very nature of painting and expand the boundaries of what was considered possible. His paintings and theoretical works became part of the great avant-garde revolution, which changed the course of art history and laid the foundation for further experiments in painting and sculpture. Niels Bohr, 1885–1962, a Danish physicist and one of the main founders of quantum mechanics, hung in his office a large picture of Jean Metzinger, the woman on horse. This work is one of the most striking early examples of the realization of Metzinger's moving perspective. Arthur Miller concludes, if cubism is the result of science in art, then quantum theory is the result of art in science. Jean Metzinger's life was closely intertwined with his work, and his personal relationships and social activities had a significant impact on his artistic path. Like many artists, he found inspiration in the people around him and the events that shaped his worldview. Metzinger's marriage to Suzanne Forest Plantaven in 1913 played an important role in his artistic development. Susan was his muse and critic, as well as a source of stability in difficult moments of life. She shared his love of art and often accompanied him on trips and exhibitions. Their relationship was full of creative dialogue, and the artist often discussed his ideas with her, looking for support and inspiration. Suzanne was one of the few who understood the complex philosophical foundations of his paintings, and her presence gave him the opportunity to delve deeper into his work without losing touch with reality. Metzinger's relationship with his wife influenced his later works, where more lyricism and inner peace appear compared to his earlier, more aggressively experimental paintings. The First World War was one of the most difficult trials for Jean Metzinger. In 1914, he was called up to the front, and although his service did not last long due to injuries, it left a deep imprint on his work and worldview. As for many artists of that time, the horrors of war changed his perception of the world. After the war, Metzinger created several works that reflected his emotional state and reaction to what he saw. Although he did not depict war directly on his canvases, its shadow can be felt in the depths of his later cubism, in fragmented forms, as if broken by war, in dull tones and complex compositions, where pain and loss are felt. Metzinger repeatedly spoke about the influence of war on his worldview. In private letters, he described the frontline horrors and the despondency that remained after returning home. His art became a means of processing this experience, a way to understand and accept a new reality where destruction became part of human existence. In the post-war period, the artist actively participates in the artistic life of France, continues theoretical work supporting young artists, and will be engaged in teaching, transferring his experience and knowledge to a new generation. He became an important figure in the artistic environment of Paris, where hopes were pinned on him as the intellectual leader of cubism. His books and articles continued to shape discussions of art, and his own work, although not as revolutionary as it had been in the beginning, continued to develop Cubist ideas in new directions. The personal life and social activities of Jean Metzinger became an integral part of his artistic path. His relationships with loved ones, experiences of war, and active participation in the artistic environment of Paris created the context for his art, which in turn became a mirror for many other artists of his time. The legacy of Jean Metzinger is one of the most important for the development of contemporary art, and Cubism as one of its main directions. Although the names of his contemporaries, such as Pablo Picasso or Georges Braque, are usually mentioned first in connection with Cubism, Metzinger left a deep mark on the art world. His contribution greatly influenced later generations of artists. After the publication of his theoretical work, Cubism, many artists received new tools for analyzing reality and its reflection in art. This book was the first attempt to systematize and explain this revolutionary movement, which not only helped make Cubism more understandable to a wider audience, but also allowed its other adherents to deepen their own understanding. His ideas about multiplane perception and the possibility of simultaneously depicting different points of view became the foundation not only for Cubists, but also for other avant-gardists, such as futurists, constructivists, and surrealists. Many later artists, such as Fernand Léger or Robert Delaunay, adopted from Metzinger his philosophy of perceiving the world through the prism of abstraction and geometry. He laid the foundation for the development of abstract art, which subsequently gained great popularity in the 20th century. His thoughts that art should be a means of exploring the world, and not just a way of displaying it, were extremely important for many artists of the 20th century who were looking for new forms of expression of their ideas. Metzinger's Cubism was special in that it preserved the connection between form and content, between abstract geometric structures and real emotional states. His ability to convey the inner energy of the depicted objects or characters through fragmentation of form became an important point for the further development of Cubism and abstraction. His methods of analyzing form and space continued to influence artists even after the completion of his active creative activity. Through his writings, Metzinger remains one of the central figures of Cubism. His legacy lies not only in individual masterpieces or theoretical works, but also in his ability to open new horizons for the perception of reality in art. He created the foundations for the further development of avant-garde trends and influenced a whole generation of artists, which later became part of the history of modern art. After World War II, Metzinger remained active in the art world, although his work gradually faded into the background against the backdrop of new trends such as surrealism and abstract expressionism. However, he continued to draw, teach, and participate in exhibitions, maintaining his status as one of the main representatives of Cubism. In his last years, Metzinger worked with a softer palette, and his work showed a departure from the rigid geometry of early Cubism to smoother, lyrical forms. His later paintings were marked by calm and harmonious compositions, where, as before, the spirit of innovation remained, but with less emphasis on experiments. This period is characterized by deep reflection, as if the artist sums up his life and artistic path. He was still engaged in theoretical activities, provided advice to young artists, and participated in discussions about contemporary art, and his works are regularly exhibited in leading galleries in France. Metzinger died on November 3, 1956 in Paris, at the age of 73. His death was a symbolic end of an entire era for those who saw him as a pioneer of Cubism and a true intellectual in art. He left behind not only a significant artistic heritage, but also a whole legacy of innovative ideas that influenced the development of modern art. After Metzinger's death, his contribution to art began to be rethought and appreciated at a new level. While during his lifetime his name was often in the shadow of the more popular Picasso and Braque, over time, art historians began to pay attention to its uniqueness and theoretical importance. His paintings have become part of the collections of leading museums in the world, such as the Museum of Modern Art in New York, the Pompidou Center in Paris, and many others. During exhibitions, critics and the public noted not only his role as a pioneer of Cubism, but also his ability to combine intellectual search with emotional depth. Art historians began to see in Metzinger's work an important transitional stage from traditional forms of art to abstraction. His paintings became a kind of bridge between two-dimensional realism and innovative ideas, which were later picked up by abstractionists, Dadaists, and surrealists. Jean Metzinger left behind not only a rich artistic heritage, but also a philosophy that enriched contemporary art. His work was not only an experiment with form, but also an intellectual study of human perception. He challenged traditional notions of space and time in painting, bringing new dimensions to it. Metzinger's legacy is an example of the synergy of the power of intelligence and art, which changed the worldview, opened new horizons, and continue to inspire artists in our time.